Music didn't fade out. Okay, sorry. Technical difficulties. Doing a last minute live stream here. But hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Spawn Trap podcast, the only podcast that celebrates the new year in April. I am
Yeah.
I am joined with Court here,
Hello, everybody.
and I always forget to say that I am Till on the MCU podcast. It's been a while since for this
I
podcast, so
am
I
Till.
don't. I'm gonna I have you set lower on Discord. I just realized, so I'm gonna raise you up.
Wow. Yeah, bro. What
But
the heck?
yeah, we've been on an unintentional hiatus.
Yeah.
Um, we've
Busy, busy, busy.
been busy. Our lives have changed.
Quite a
Our
bit.
yeah, and our availability just hasn't synced up properly for a podcast. In that
Yep.
time, which I think the last podcast we did was in September. Because
Yeah.
we did a lot of live stream reactions after that because that's when like big events are going on.
Yeah, so we couldn't really settle on a time to talk about the news. It was just
Yeah.
everything, all this other stuff coming out, all the games.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then after the
for
game
sure.
awards, we're like, yeah, we're gonna wait. Like in the new year, we'll come back with podcasts, and that just didn't happen. Um, but there's been so much news since we've been gone.
Since you've
Unfortunately,
been gone.
we're not talking about all of that. We're talking about
Yeah.
two things in particular that are major stories that we need to do a follow up on. One thing we're going to start off right out the bat, and it's surprising that this isn't the big news that we're talking about, and it's going to be such a short mention, but E3 is canceled.
Right?
So, Summer Game Fest is still happening. There's still gaming
Yeah.
events that are going on. We're still going to try to do live reactions. At
Yeah.
least I am. So, I'm going to try to make myself available for them. We don't know the dates of everything in particular yet, so we're still
Yeah.
figuring that out.
I'm definitely excited for Square Enix if they make a like announcement or anything like that because I might have or basically Final Fantasy Online they just had Endwalker and stuff,
Mhm.
so I don't know if they're going to announce the next expansion. So I'm almost done Endwalker, so it'll be nice to actually be in a reaction where I can actually be excited for the next one than being like behind. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lot of stuff. So,
Right?
but
Life is Strange.
that's
I want another one, so
yeah. I don't know exactly who's going to be doing stuff. I do have a thing on our Discord. I don't know if you noticed, about like all the different events and stuff that I'm trying to keep track of.
yeah.
And only like very few have said if they're going to do some sort of presentation. But there will
Yeah.
be the big Summer Game Fest show that we'll react to. There's the Xbox, and I'm assuming they're gonna call it like Xbox Bethesda showcase, like they always do. But it's a double feature. They said Xbox and then Starfield. You disappeared. Did my Discord shut off?
Hello.
Hello. I think my Discord just like refreshed.
Yeah.
That was weird.
I froze and then
Oh,
but I was still okay on stream and then suddenly I
yeah.
didn't hear you anymore.
Okay. Let me try to. I don't know what happened. I'm getting like these ad things now too. Okay, there we go. We're back. Again,
Oh my
technical
god.
difficulties.
You have to reset there.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like a double feature, Xbox and Starfield. So they're gonna do like their major thing, and then they're gonna have like a showcase just for Starfield, and then who knows who else is doing things? Oh, Ubisoft's doing something.
Yeah.
That's it.
Probably the about more of the new Assassin's Creed.
Or the Beyond Good and Evil sequel that is definitely happening apparently.
Sick.
Anyways, our big major story today is everything that we missed on the Activision Blizzard acquisition from Xbox. And I don't even think we have everything. We're not going to be talking about everything, and we don't. I don't even think we have everything that we missed. But there's been so
Yeah.
much. It's been such a roller coaster trying to follow what's going on here that I
Yeah.
figured this deserves its own podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of had to do that. So,
And I don't. I don't even fully remember everything that happened. I just like last minute put together a document of articles that we missed in the time of our last podcast. So
Yeah.
a lot of these we're just going to be like reading for the first time or trying to get like headlines and stuff.
I yeah, I haven't read I haven't read any of it. I just haven't had time to, but I always figure when we do these, it's
Yeah.
partially a reaction stream for me.
uh
So,
I see these things on Twitter and other places and I'll bookmark them and I'll post them on Discord. So I do see like a little bit of a breakdown in some of the social discussions around them. But it's been a lot. Kotaku has they posted it back in February 13th. They posted an article that says everything that's happened in the Microsoft Activision merger saga. I was hoping they would keep that updated. They're not. So there's been a lot of
oh no.
stuff since then. But if you want a good
Yeah.
breakdown of like how everything started, where it went, they do have kind of a breakdown there. The last story that I posted after our podcast, or sorry, the first story that I posted after podcast that we never got to,
Hmm.
um, was the one about remember Francis Townsend who like um went on TV for Activision Blizzard and then said like a bunch of horrible things and she used to work for Bush and she's like a pro-war person.
Oh God.
We talked about her in one of our
No, did
podcasts.
we? Oh my, you could tell it's been
Yeah, I know.
so long.
It's so this was the first thing I posted. This is like way back when I was trying to like research what articles we missed. She stepped down from um uh from Activision, but it says here she will still advise Bobby Kotick.
It's always funny when these things happen
Yeah.
in this industry where they they step down. I can just imagine like the HR department coming into this person's office and going,
Yeah.
"You know what to do," and they're like, "Fuck," and they're like stepping down. Like they just like hand them a piece of paper like that you're agreeing to step down, and then
Yeah.
you know they just pack up their office and leave. It just happens so often. They step down. I'm
I
like,
don't know if she's
mm-hmm.
still because
Poor
this
HR.
was way back in September. So I don't know what her situation is right now.
Bobby wrote a letter or some shit
Uh I didn't see
with
that.
a copy of Codex email to staff regarding
Yeah,
Townsend's
yeah, yeah.
departure.
Oh, okay, okay. Didn't
Uh,
she? I think she wrote an email to staff about how like the accusations of sexual harassment for the company um were like bullshit or something like that, and it was like a completely tone deaf email. I remember she's just like a horrible person.
yeah, I don't, man. I'm more excited for the wave of millennials that are taking over the workforce right now because I feel like we all have a way better like screw of our own head, or our head screwed on properly. That's what I was
Right.
looking for. And it baffles me that people come out with these letters that are so tone deaf and ignorant and just like, oh wow, like I don't understand why everyone's complaining. It's like you're why you because you suck. Like, it's there's this like a group of people that just refuse to take accountability for their own actions, and they have to constantly put blame on everything else.
Yeah,
And then or just be like, get over it. Like back in my day, we used to just work through anxiety and stress. Bleh.
I hate those people.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, like yeah.
I,
Anyways.
I think you might have posted the next story in the document. I can't remember. The
Is it?
Activision Blizzard receives another sexual harassment lawsuit.
Yes, maybe.
I don't know. It feels like I know that you were posting some of these stories. So
Yeah,
this was
I heard
back in
some stuff.
October. Activision Blizzard has received another sexual harassment lawsuit that also alleges sexual battery, failure to prevent harassment, gender discrimination, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. As reported by the Daily Mail, the plaintiff, identified only as Jane Doe, filed the lawsuit with the Los Angeles Superior Court that claimed Activision Blizzard is a massive video game company with a massive sexual harassment problem. Doe is seeking an undisclosed amount of compensation, punitive damages, and the removal of CEO Bobby Kotick. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Who was previously accused of knowing about but not reporting sexual harassment allegations at Activision Blizzard. This is how this whole thing started on this podcast, by the way, is us
Yeah.
talking about that original story. So
Mhm.
this is all just uh big spiral since then.
What's this about?
Uh,
Um,
there's an update at the bottom. Activision
oh,
Blizzard sent over a statement regarding the lawsuit saying, "We take all employee concerns seriously. When the plaintiff reported her concerns, we immediately opened an investigation,
mm,
and Mr. Vega was
sorry.
terminated within 10 days. We have no tolerance for this kind of misconduct." Seems like they do.
Yeah.
Just saying, based on
Right.
previous
Their frat boy culture.
situations. Yeah.
Um, it's like I always try not to read the comments down below, and
Oh,
this one
let's read the
person's like, "This
comments.
one is a stretch. Not only are
I'm like,
their waters muddy with the prior relationship and exchange of compromising photos, but also they did take action by firing the guy." It's like, and then everyone argues.
yeah.
I always like reading like someone's comment, and then you just see like 10 replies, and I'm like, "Ooh, juicy."
Yeah, you gotta look at the replies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember what this article said, but I remember I found it interesting enough to
Which
share.
one?
The following one. So, Forbes posted something. What happens if Microsoft is blocked from buying Activision Blizzard? Um, because that's the whole thing. It's like, well, what's gonna like end result one way or another? What happens after? Um,
Yeah.
based on the stuff that I've been reading up to this point, it seemed like Sony, and we'll get to it, but it seems like Sony is making um some, like, they're ruining relationships.
Oh
Whereas
no.
if, because it sounds like if things don't go through, it sounded like Sony's gonna have a bad relationship with Xbox, Activision Blizzard, and everybody else who is invested in this merger, which would be
Interesting.
bad for them. Because do you imagine if Activision Blizzard's like, well, we don't want to work with you anymore, so you don't get Call of Duty anyway. Like, I'm just thinking, like, maybe that's like a possibility that could happen. So to me, it's like, it seems like they should want this deal to go through and not piss
Yeah.
off the people who, because Xbox is like, it's going to be on PlayStation if we get the acquisition.
Mhm.
We're committed to that. But Activision Blizzard might not be committed to PlayStation. If they screw them over of this, like, $1 billion deal or whatever it was.
Yeah. Also, are you wearing a Metroid shirt?
I am.
I was looking, I'm like, "Ah, those things."
I would normally open the podcast asking what we've been playing. We don't have time for that.
Yeah, no,
or
not
it's playing
today.
or it's playing through Metroid Prime for the first time.
Yeah, as Samus.
Yes. She's
Strengthening those
cosplaying.
neck muscles, yeah. Finally got the shoes, so now my outfit is fully complete. Um, and or I have to make or design them, but I have them. Let's see.
I don't
Yeah, so
I don't well, yeah, say what you want to say.
oh, I was just gonna kind of paraphrase like any of the stuff like from this article that we want to talk about.
Go for it, because I was gonna skip it because I think it's important. Maybe you should look at it if you are curious. It's from Forbes. This was back in October.
Yeah.
So the title is, "What happens if Microsoft is blocked from buying Activision Blizzard?" These are what if scenarios. So I don't
Oh,
know
okay,
if
it gets long. I thought it ended and I was like, they gave me 3 paragraphs and that was it.
no, this is advertisements. Which, by the way, I'm
Uh,
not using a browser with ad blocker right now, so you might see some ads come up. while we're streaming.
Excuse me, sorry. Yeah. Ow. Yeah, no, nothing too much other than just like
Okay.
kind of the prediction of what's gonna happen. I just hope that it doesn't become a war between all of them, you know?
It
It's
sounds like only
just
one side wants a war.
which is Sony?
Yeah, well, let's talk about it right now. Microsoft has revealed this is back in October 19th. Microsoft reveals Sony's Activision deal is blocking Call of Duty from Game Pass. So this is according to Xbox.
Reveals. I like
Yeah.
that.
The agreement. So, this is as part of a yet another document detailing Microsoft's case to the UK's CMA, that is not the Country Music Awards. Can't remember what that is. I'll have to look it up. That Sony isn't on a level playing field with all of this. They said the following about the current deal between Sony and Activision Blizzard. The agreement between Activision Blizzard and Sony includes restrictions on the ability of Activision Blizzard to place Call of Duty title on Game Pass for a number of years.
Oh,
So Sony's basically saying, "Hey, we have a deal with Activision Blizzard, and they can't put Call of Duty onto Game Pass."
okay. And it says this is significant because this is part of the deal that Phil Spencer was referring or referencing when he said Microsoft had the intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Um, yeah, because this is where a lot of this information and stuff, it's really hard to almost like talk about the news on this because there's probably so much like like contracts and agreements and obligations and stuff based on those contracts. So it's hard because we're not the lawyers that put these things together to kind of understand what they can and can't do and why they're doing this and what's going to be the repercussions of doing that. Um,
But also, all
because
this
that's
stuff is getting released now. Like the stuff that
yeah.
it's supposedly like these private behind the scenes contracts, because everybody wanted to sue each other. Now we're getting to see everything.
It's like that meme with like the Spider-Man and the other Spider-Man, they're all pointing at each other. But it's like suing them. They're just like, I'm gonna sue you, well, I'm gonna sue you. Like, oh, I'm gonna sue this guy. Like, oh man.
It's been a nail biter because there's been so many times where it's just like, oh, it looks like things are going one way, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, wait, Uno reverse. Now
Yeah.
now it's backfired. Right
Yep.
now, I think the last I've checked, the ball does seem to be in Xbox's court.
Yeah. I feel like it's been interesting watching them kind of like it's basically they've been slow and steady winning the race when Sony, has always been kind of like the more popular one, all this jazz. But when the new systems were kind of coming out, and then Microsoft was really pushing that, subscription based thing, and now like everyone does the subscription based stuff, and they kind of set the really like the good standard of um having really good games on Game Pass when Sony had the same thing, but it had just not the greatest games. Like it was awful. And now like they have to kind of bring up their own bar. And Microsoft has slowly been just binding their time with making these kind of like changes. And then now they're kind of this massive like strength that's facing the industry being like like we have all this not like control or whatever, but
Mhm.
like they've kind of really gained the momentum and the upper hand on the gaming industry. Or at least that's how like I look at it from working in retail and seeing the sales and seeing like the marketing and seeing how they were being pushed and stuff. So it's rather interesting.
I still see them as, I mean, they're definitely not like a small indie company because it's Microsoft, you know.
What?
But when you're comparing, who else is out there, and
Yeah.
it's not just, you know, product X and product Y are competing against each other. It's a whole bunch of other things. And Xbox,
Yeah.
in my mind, I see as, especially prior to this acquisition, as underdogs in the industry
Yeah.
because PlayStation is so massive. They're bigger than Xbox in gaming, especially outside of, uh, North America.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like everybody's mentality on that shifted the moment they announced that they were going to be acquiring Activision Blizzard because now
Yeah.
they're seeing as they have too much control. Nobody else can compete. And I was like, wait a
But
minute.
wait a minute.
Yesterday, weren't they the underdogs?
Isn't that typical of Microsoft though to kind of monopolize? Didn't they wasn't that a thing years and years and years and years and years
Yeah,
ago with computers?
there was a
They're
court
doing it
case.
again.
There was a court case for that. Very similar situation. Uh,
Ah!
I think they might have learned from that.
Well, no, because they like the court's like, you're not allowed to do that. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah. But I
All
think
right.
this situation is different just because of the type of industry it is and how their competition works
Yeah.
comparatively. You know, like even uh even saying that like Xbox, PlayStation, they're still not the biggest. Like there's other game companies outside of America that are like bigger. Um
Like what?
Tencent, for
What would
example.
10 cent?
Yeah, like the Chinese company, they're like one of the biggest, if not the biggest game company out there.
Why? What do they make? Let me
It's
wait.
like
I feel like
everything.
everything.
They're
10 cent
they all
centimeters to inches.
they
Inches. I want to look now. I feel like we've talked about them before as
we
well.
have especially in regards to like Activision Blizzard for sure they do have a stake um in Blizzard.
Yeah.
There was the whole Blitzchung controversy and everything
League
too
of
stemmed from that.
Legends.
Yeah, so yeah, that's just been my view on it. But so that's why like I feel like people have their console wars mentality in this situation where it's like I want more than anything, logic aside, I want PlayStation to win, I want Xbox to win. I think this is an interesting situation in general. I do see both sides of the arguments. So I do see
Yeah.
where everybody's coming from, but I think for me logically, um, I think for me logically that everything's kind of on Xbox's side, and I just see more benefits if the acquisition goes through. And
Yeah.
it's typically against my nature because I'm against you know, uh, corporations owning everything
Yeah.
and I guess capitalism in general and stuff like that. But I think in this situation, there's so many factors involved. Like even as someone who's pro union, like even the unions involved with like Activision Blizzard and everything want this acquisition to go through. Last I checked.
Yeah.
So like everything, it just seems more positive on the Xbox side for me in my perspective that I do have that bias and I do have that position on it where I do want it to go through. But
Yeah.
ultimately, they're two rich, big, major corporations that I don't ultimately care.
Yeah. I think it was you who had I remember we had talked about like just the difference between the two of them, and I remember you saying there's actually not much difference between the games that come out because they basically come out the exact same games. Yes, Sony has their exclusives, but it's only by a couple. Like there's a couple of games that are exclusive. So what really is the difference, right? And I've always wondered that
Depends on how
myself
you
of
see exclusivity, but yeah.
yeah, right. Well, it's like Horizon and like, God of War, like
You're
those like
looking at
really big
console
titles.
exclusives. The
Yeah.
PlayStation does, I think, have more
Yeah, but
between the
aside from
two.
that, like they have the exact same games, right?
Oh yeah, for
So,
the most part, yeah, they do.
yeah. I remember my only argument to that was that the spines look better
The
on
what?
Sony games. Like the spines,
Oh, and the cases.
yeah, the cases and stuff. I always like the cases a lot better, and I was like, this is why.
uh, yeah. I mean, part of that discussion is going to come up because Sony is actually making that like that topic part of their argument in
Yeah.
court. So it's interesting. Um, but yeah, the next thing here, I don't even know if you want me to even mention this, but the next story was Activision CEO Bobby Kotick donates $50,000 to Republican who protested the 2020 election.
Oh, yeah, just that's all we need.
Okay, there you
Just the
go.
title there. It's
Okay,
like,
so
good grief.
yeah, so in regards to what you were saying, the next page there, this is from Kotaku. Xbox admits PlayStation exclusives are quote unquote better quality.
Yeah.
So that goes in line with what we were talking about here. So Microsoft shared this information as part of UK's investigation to Activision Blizzard merger. Let's get to the meat of it here. If there's a quote. Um,
Okay, so Sony has more exclusive games than Microsoft, many of which are better quality. Xbox says that exclusivity deals are not uncommon in video games, and that Sony has its own great exclusive games like The Last of Us and God of War.
mhm.
But Sony, or but Sony, both Sony's and Nintendo's exclusives first-party games rank among the best-selling in Europe and worldwide. I feel like that's like a really big thing to, and because that's where Nintendo, like everyone has to have a Nintendo. If you ever want to play Mario or Zelda, you have to have Nintendo.
Yeah.
And it's just, I feel like there is a benefit to exclusivity, but at the same time, it just sucks for consumers because, how many times did we get phone calls at work where they're like, uh, you guys have the Mario game? Yeah, we do. Do you have it for like a PS4 though? Like, no. But yeah, they have like all these really great first party games, and then Xbox like, but we got Forza. And you're like,
Pretty
oh
much, yeah.
yeah, good job. Wait, that's a great racing game. Woo.
Now
what
we're
like what
seeing.
else does what else does Xbox have that's exclusive to them aside from Forza?
Um, so they've been acquiring a bunch of studios over the years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of smaller titles. I think the biggest one is, um, what's that one from that writer? I think from Game of Thrones. That game that came. Why am I blanking? It was a big game.
J.R.R. Martin or whatever.
Yeah, it was a big game that came out. Why am I blanking on it? It was like the game of the year last year. Elden Ring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have
But they
Elden Ring.
were but they weren't exclusive for Xbox.
I think it was, yeah.
No,
Because
it was for
that's what
because I got it for PS4.
oh, you got it for PS4?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, let me look it up. I know there's some like exclusive because that's what Sony's argument was. They're like, "Oh, they said that they wouldn't make this one game exclusive, but they did." And Xbox is like, "We never said that."
No,
Uh
I'm looking it up. We're like sexual assault
Game
cases
Games
aside.
Radar has
Halo,
Games Radar,
Halo,
yeah, Halo, yeah.
but Sony acquired Bungie.
They did, but Bungie doesn't own Halo. The
No, okay,
Microsoft
and then
has
Gears
the
of War
IP. Yeah.
or your Gears.
Uh,
Sunset Overdrive, can't forget that one.
so Games Radar has best exclusives to own on Xbox, and already this is wrong because it says Immortality, and that is out on I think PC and it's on Netflix. Like you can play it
Yeah.
on mobile.
Every
Hi-Fi
dad's favorite.
Rushes,
Yeah, or every dad's favorite Flight Simulator.
Flight Simulator. Yeah.
um
Quantum Break. Halo. When Quantum Break's on your list, I don't know. Ori and
Arc
the
is
Will of the
not
Wisps is Nintendo.
exclusive.
That's
Which
Sunset.
one?
Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it says
But
Sunset Overdrive. Wasn't Sunset Overdrive switched to multi-platform at some point?
I don't. This is like I'm like I can get these on PC too.
Yeah.
But again, because we're run by
Uh,
Microsoft.
sea of
Woo.
Thieves. There you
Yeah,
go.
Sea of
Sea of
Thieves,
Thieves.
Starfield,
Star. Yeah, Starfield's the upcoming game.
and it's exclusive to
So
Xbox.
that might be what I was thinking of. Is their
Gotcha.
upcoming exclusive Starfield?
Yeah. But I think like the thing is that yeah, all because looking at the list of everything that's exclusive, they're not really big games like the way Sony has these huge, amazing games that are their exclusive,
Yeah,
right?
that's why I'm
Yeah.
thinking that because like people are like, oh, now, well, I think people's concerns is that Call of Duty, Overwatch, like all that other stuff is going to somehow just switch to being Xbox exclusive. Where
Yeah.
I don't think that's an Xbox's history, or at least recent history, to do that. And people will throw up Starfield as an example. And I think this is an upcoming story. But basically, the argument was made that Xbox promised Starfield was going to be multi-platform. Phil Spencer said, "I never said that," and nobody can provide a like proof that he said that.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those like people just imagined it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's one of those it's always interesting when people are like, "No, no, no, you said that." He's like, "No, like I didn't say that."
yeah.
And it's one of those times where I feel like people hear what they want to hear,
Hmm.
and he might have said like, and they just kind of jump, like it's just so
Yeah.
interesting. I almost can relate because working in retail for some now I can actually talk about my past job because I'm not there anymore. And it's like so many times that people would be like, well, they didn't tell me that, they said this. I'm like, they probably didn't, but you just wanted to hear what you wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Like when we like, oh, they said I can return this. No, no, no. This is what they said. No, they told me I can return this. Like, no, like it's like we don't say that.
Yeah.
It's not in our vocabulary. you know? So it's but you can't argue, you can't just be like, "You're fucking stupid." Like, no. Um, "Are you deaf?" Like, just, like, start, like, reaming them out, but it's like, you can't, you're like, "Okay, like, listen, like, it's your word against mine. They're gonna say that they didn't say it either. How can we find a resolution to this, right? Or a
Yeah.
solution to this?" But, yeah, it's just I feel like, yeah, when people make any sort of announcement, it's like, "Alright, show me proof. Like, show
Yeah.
me where they said exactly that."
Yeah.
You
And you
know?
have to when you're doing this in court. You have
Yeah.
to prove uh you have to prove your case. If you can't prove it, then what are you
I
arguing?
wonder, it would be really interesting to like if you were to, and I'm doing like this hypothesis or like a, theoretically, where it's like if you were to say something online and then someone were to be like, "Oh, um basically be like, "Oh, say example, Courtney hates cats." And it's like, "No, I never said that." And it's like, and you could sue the public to be like, "Prove it to me where I said that I hated cats."
Yeah.
And then if they can't prove that you did, then they're not allowed to ever talk about it again. And then you get to make a
'Cause
statement and be like, "Has this been proven?"
what you said was you love dogs,
Yeah,
and people are like, "Oh my
exactly.
god, she hates cats."
Exactly. And then I
Yeah.
could sue the public, but like just for just not being able to say anything. And then that way just you would get like this little thing that says they do in fact love cats. If you speak otherwise, you are incorrect. Sorry, like official, you are incorrect statement.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just thought of that. That was like that would have been funny.
Here's where things I think took started to take a turn. Um,
Fed's likely to challenge Microsoft's 69 bill. I feel like that's a fake article.
no, this is from Politico. Um, the Federal Trade Commission is likely to file. This was back in November 23rd. The FTC is likely to file an antitrust lawsuit to block Microsoft's $69 billion takeover of video game giant Activision Blizzard. A lawsuit would be the FTC's biggest move yet under Chair Lena Khan to rein in the power of the world's largest technology companies. It would also be a major black mark for Microsoft, which has positioned itself as a white knight of sorts on antitrust issues in the tech sector after going through its own grueling regulatory antitrust battles around the world more than 2 decades ago. What I think you were referring to.
Ah,
So yeah, this is the FTC getting involved. I think was like the biggest um like turn of events and stuff that was uh like kind of just spiraled out of control after this point on
yeah.
this merger. So yeah,
It's
that's
yeah, basically sums it up. The
um
suggestion is that the incumbent market leader, Sony, with clear and enduring market power, could be foreclosed by the smallest of the three console competitors, Xbox,
It's
as a
so
result of losing
it's
access
so
to
stupid.
one title is not credible.
Again, like outsider looking in, you're not paying attention to the games industry, and you see this
Mm,
and like, oh, video games. There's three people that make video games.
that's it.
There's
That's
John
it.
Xbox, there's John PlayStation, and there's John Nintendo. And
Yep.
then if John Xbox buys John Blizzard, then then poor John PlayStation will go out of business.
This
It's not what
isn't no small business street, you know? Like,
yeah, it's not the situation.
yeah, no.
Nobody's gonna want to buy the PlayStation. So
Right. No one's gonna want to
how are
buy
they
it.
gonna make their money now if they
And
don't
then
have the
Google.
PlayStation? Like
Exactly.
that's not how this industry works.
Right? Oh
I'm
man.
trying to think like what's like the example of that. Like um
Google.
if there's
Just will it connect to the Wi-Fi? Then they
yeah,
monopolize
I don't
the
know.
Wi-Fi. Does Microsoft connect to the internet? So they're stealing our data. Hmm? Oh man.
Yeah, if like Google was to like buy Samsung, right?
Yeah.
Like would Apple like I don't know. Would
Oh,
Apple
would
make
go
like a big thing about that?
yeah, they'd be like, "We're gonna go out of business now." I'd be like, "I'm sure you
I
won't.
don't know.
I'm sure you won't."
Anyway,
Anyways,
what's the next thing here?
Actiblizzard
Activision.
Actiblizzard won't hesitate to fight to defend Microsoft's acquisition. They're like, "Take us, please. We want
Yeah,
out."
yeah. You know what? I feel like yeah, the CCO Lulu Cheng Messervy, which I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. She's going to come up a lot in this podcast. She says it's absurd to suggest the deal is anti-competitive. What's she saying here? Seeing a lot of
Anti.
speculation. Yeah, anti-competitive.
So she's saying, she's like, "Y'all are fools if you think that this isn't a competitive thing. Idiots, God."
Yeah.
It's like, no, it is. It's totally a competitive thing. It's like, yeah, we know.
Well, no, no. She's saying that like, the deal that they're trying to make, people are making the argument that it's anti-competitive. Like, it's like they're getting rid of competition.
Oh,
Like they're trying to be a monopoly or whatever. Um, but she's saying, seeing a lot of speculation about Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard, any suggestion that the transaction could have anti-competitive effects is absurd. So this was through Twitter. She's very active on Twitter.
okay.
This merger will be this merger will benefit gamers and the U.S. gaming industry, especially as we face stiffer competition from abroad. That's the whole big thing. I think she makes a good point. This isn't, by the way, PlayStation is a Japanese company. This isn't a battle between two American companies, right?
Yeah.
And like one trying to buy another American company. Um, they have outside competition. They have other competitors outside of that sphere that, like, for example, Tencent, like I brought up, that's outside of America. And they're saying
Yeah.
like this deal is anti-competitive for the American consumers. It's like that's not the thing. Like we're trying to
Like
also
strengthen
compete with
our
people outside of America.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it is true. Like Nintendo and like PlayStation, like they do have quite a hold on the industry.
Not
So yeah,
yeah, but not like I wouldn't say they have like the biggest hold in the industry.
Mario holds it all in his big dunk dunk.
Nintendo holds a lot. I mean, there's a reason why the Switch year after year is like the best selling console.
Yeah, I
Um,
know it. You could come in with the pro. You could like shut up.
but PC gaming's still huge. Mobile gaming's huge.
Yeah,
There's a lot out there, you know.
I can't
So
believe how big mobile gaming is.
I know. I
I
would say it's probably the biggest. thing. Like, isn't like the Call of Duty Mobile like the biggest game? Like,
I don't
it's not what everybody's
I
playing.
just I just don't play on my phone at all. I don't have games on my phone. I think the closest thing I
I
had
said
to a game.
most people do. Like, even people who say like
Yeah.
I'm not a gamer, pull up their phone and start gaming.
Yeah, I
So
just find I don't know, like the games that are on there are just full of advertisements, and you have
yeah,
to like pay to not get
but you're used to
ads.
like that's how
Yeah,
the people using that platform are used to those games. I mean, we're used to microtransactions and
yeah.
and like DLC and all that stuff and pay to play and um games of service. Like
Bring
these are
back pay to
things
win.
that
Just kidding.
yeah. But these are things we're used to on like the PC gaming, console gaming side. So that's just like if that's how you game, that you're used to that, right?
Yeah, I think the only time I ever played anything on my game or on my phone was Obey Me, which was a visual novel gotcha game where I
Okay.
just had to sleep with all these demon boys. And there would be like this dancing game, and you would basically have to subscribe
Yeah.
and get the premium membership for it to get like the good stuff. Um, but and that was I think I spent a weekend and then got sick of it. And then I would play it every day to get the bonuses, but I don't play it anymore. Like I
Hmm.
uninstalled it and I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I can't just if it's weird. I have a PC, so it's pointless for me to play a game on my phone when I can just walk over to my PC and play
Yeah,
something.
but like when you're away from your PC.
It's like just right over there. I can just walk over back to it.
Yeah, but when you can't bring your PC with
That's but like I guess because I don't leave my house, bro. Where else am I gonna
you.
go?
That's fine. I'm always looking at like different ways to play. Like I have so many different handhelds, and like my phone is one of them. But I
Yeah,
do prefer the dedicated hardware. So
yeah.
that's
I
why.
can't. Maybe I'm also I. It's like I can't relate to anyone because I get motion sickness. So even if I were traveling, it's really hard for me to
Oh
play a
yeah,
game.
it's so hard for. I get motion sickness too. It's
Yeah, unless
very
I'm on a plane. A plane's because the plane's just
yeah.
like just going at it doesn't feel like it's really moving too
If
much.
I'm
But
moving in a car or anything and I'm trying to play a game, I'm
oh,
done. I'm done. I can't do
especially if
it.
the person drives like a gas coast coast person. You know, when they
It's
go
tough.
like they
Yeah.
hit the gas and then they go coast 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 and they
It's
gas
tough too
coast
because
coast
like
coast
you want to
coast.
occupy yourself when you're a passenger, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, and you can't do anything. Like all you can do is just like focus on the road because
Well,
otherwise
that's why
you get sick.
you look out the window and you pretend you're out there jumping, hopping around. You know, as a kid, if
Yeah.
you ever looked out the
Yeah.
window and you're just like you pretend you're running on a horse or like running and or on a horse or you're jumping from like light post to light post and like
Yeah.
I used to do it all the time because I'd get motion sickness, so I would have to be at a window and I'd have to be looking out the window. You know, let's just bring back the old days, man. Let's look out the window and pretend.
That's what I'll have to do again. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right. But now people want to have a fucking conversation. Like,
No.
no.
Mm.
I mean, to me,
Turn on
I'm also
radio.
living in a city that I'm not too familiar with. I didn't grow up here.
Hmm.
And so whenever someone picks me up or it's say Uber, when I look out the window, it's because I have no fucking clue where I'm going. So
Right.
I like to look out and be like, this is how I get here.
So here's where Xbox, because there's lawsuits coming and everything trying to stop this deal. This is where Xbox is like, all right, we're gonna try to look like as much of the good guys as possible to try to
Mm.
convince people to get this deal going through. First of all, Microsoft to offer Sony 10 years of Call of Duty to close Activision deal, guaranteeing Sony you'll have Call of Duty for 10 years at least.
Everyone's like, no. And it's
That
like that's a
yeah,
long time.
it's not Call of Duty's not going exclusive. PlayStation will still have Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Um, so this is where they're starting that off. Um, I'm not going to delve too much into the headline. There's an update here though. Microsoft's spokesperson commented to Kotaku. Again, this is back in November. I don't know if I said that. We're continuing to work with European Commission on next steps and to address any valid marketplace concerns. Sony, as the industry leader, they have to throw that in.
Yeah, just
Again, we're the underdogs.
yeah.
Says it is worried about Call of Duty, but we've said we are committed to making the same game available on the same day on both Xbox and PlayStation. We want people to have more access to games, not less. This
You know
is
what they
the
should
start.
do? They need to pull out a Nintendo and just bring back old games onto the new consoles.
Well,
Like,
for Xbox, they do that a lot, and they've
no, Jet Set Radio Future. Talk to me when Jet Set Radio Future is back.
is it not on there?
Think so.
Because
I don't have
they
Xbox.
do
No.
backs like Xbox does backwards compatibility better than any of the other ones. Um,
Yeah, bring back. Well, was Banjo
pretty
Kazooie?
sure
I don't. Part of me's like, what was back? Like, what was from back in the day?
it is
Um,
available. So they released it on Xbox 360.
yeah,
If
bring back
it's
just
backwards
just
compatible, then it should be playable on current
they
Xboxes.
they need to bring like for Sony, they need to bring back Final Fantasy 7, not the
Yeah,
remake. I want the old boxy like square like biceps graphics. Give me that game, even though I have it for PC already. But like I'm talking about like those old games that like we would enjoy on like PS2 and like port those over to PS5 and stuff like that and then just make them run a little bit better because I feel like people would buy that shit just like they do for like Nintendo. I have
yeah.
literally every single version
Well,
or
here's
60 Mario 64 for every one of my Nintendo systems.
here's where I'm kind of in line with the Xbox deal for this because I feel like Xbox does have commitments to legacy games and backwards compatibility and making sure that you can play old games on modern things. Um, Activision Blizzard doesn't care about anything other than what's selling the most, what's making
Mhm.
them most money, which is Call of Duty. I don't. I'm assuming World of Warcraft still does.
Yeah.
um, like
They just
whatever.
came out with Dragonflight and apparently it's actually really good.
Yeah, whatever. Like their biggest properties are, and they cancel everything else. No more
Mhm.
Tony Hawk games, no more Crash Bandicoot, no more Spyro,
But they need to
nothing, right?
bring those back
I
though.
know, but that's what I'm saying. Like they're
Well, they
not
did. They did. They did bring back Tony Hawk.
and they did bring back those other things. Immediately after those games get released, those studios, they're like, okay, now you're working on Call of Duty. Now you're working on World of
Oh,
Warcraft. So like there's no commitment to those old titles. It's like it feels like they just threw gamers a bone to get them to shut up
yeah.
and then just abandon it. So that's what you get out of Activision Blizzard. But under Xbox, you know, there's more of a chance we could see those properties come back. I'm just saying, like
Yeah.
that's another positive side on the Xbox
Bring back
acquisition.
Fable.
They're trying, they're trying. We'll see what happens.
Right? I've
Um,
never played Fable. So like or Bully. Like Bully 2. Come on. So
that would be Rockstar's decision, not Xbox's.
yeah, because it's really difficult to play Bully on PC. Gotta say.
Is it released on PC?
Yeah, I have it for Steam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just it's
Right.
just
Yeah, I
not
tried playing it the
playable.
one day. It the I feel like um now that I have controllers for the like I have my Xbox controllers,
Hmm.
I can play those games and not because I think I was playing with a keyboard and it
Oh
was just
yeah,
awful. But then also the screen was really big and it's really hard to stream it because then it messes with like, when you try and tab out and then it changes, like
yeah,
it moves where the OBS is. And I'm like, why game? Why are you doing this?
yeah. It seems like a game that'd be better designed for a controller.
Yeah, exactly. But even like, yeah, for PC, it likes to fuck with me. Although no, it's fully
Let's get
spoiled.
back to
Yeah,
the
we
topic.
we have a couple of minutes left before I gotta go.
Are you serious? We're only in November.
I know. I told you I
Okay.
had till 6.
All right. We're gonna have to like pick up another time. Hey,
Yeah,
Kiri.
if
Um,
you're available like earlier tomorrow,
probably
then I'd be down. Yeah.
part two podcast. let's
part
do
two
this.
podcast.
All right, let's try not to get off track. Um, so the next update here is, what do we just do? Sony 10 years. Okay. Phil
Yeah,
Spencer took to Twitter. I'll see if I can pull up the tweet here.
it's on
Yeah, it's not.
where he's like
It's not.
Microsoft has entered into a 10-year commitment to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo following the merger of Microsoft and Activision Blizzard King. Microsoft is committed to helping to bring more games to more people. It'd be so weird to play Call of Duty on Nintendo.
It's gonna. I think he's got a point. Like, it is possible. It's probably not gonna be a great experience, but Activision Blizzard just doesn't want to do it. They're
Yeah,
like,
I feel
just
like
don't do
Call
it.
of Duty's just really gained such a good
Yeah,
like fan like not like I guess fan base or whatever that they're like, hey, now that's on mobile and more people are playing it and it's online. Who doesn't like a game where you can just shoot each other?
yeah.
So why not bring it to Nintendo for the kids,
It's so
right?
it's so weird because they put like Overwatch on the Switch, and it's the same company. Like, why don't they do
Yeah.
Call of Duty? I don't, I don't know.
Did
It's
they
so
have
weird to me.
Overwatch for the Switch?
Yeah,
I feel like
both games are on the Switch.
yeah, because I feel like too, it's like the Switch isn't as powerful, but then if it could be on your phone,
Yeah,
but phones are pretty powerful these days as well.
I might just
If I were
stick to our dock here.
with the tweets,
Yeah, so I
yeah.
can.
So Lulu said, "We want Call of Duty to be enjoyed by more players around the world. That requires COD being on diverse platforms after the merger of Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. Microsoft has said consistently that they want the same thing and are fully committed to making it happen. To back it up, Microsoft has offered 10-year guarantees to COD to Nintendo, agreed, Steam agreed, and Sony to be to be determined.
Determined, yeah.
Offer still stands. Sony's like, Mer.
No, they're the only
It's
ones who are
great news
not
for
agreeing.
gamers. Yeah, we applaud Microsoft's commitment and we're excited to grow the COD community together after the merger closes.
Yeah, there's gonna
Wasn't
be
there a thing where the merger might not go through?
so we'll get there. Um, because
It
it's
might
been
be a
it's
good
been a
way
back and
to.
forth thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, where is this here? 20. So there's another lawsuit here. So a lawsuit to block Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition and opening arguments in trial over Facebook's deal to buy within Mark. What is this? Hold on. This is from Washington Post. The FTC on Thursday, this was back in
The
December
FTC,
8th,
maybe let me
took its most aggressive actions against Lena Khan, became chair to rein in the power of big tech, pursuing a lawsuit to block Microsoft's acquisition of a game developer on the same day it opened arguments in another case against Meta's purchase of a virtual reality startup. In both cases, the FTC argued that the acquisition would squash future innovation in emerging gaming markets, a relatively novel interpretation of antitrust law that Khan and her allies have championed as they seek to usher in a new era of competitive enforcement. Okay. FTC suits against Microsoft would block the company's. Yeah. This feels like a rehash of the
yeah.
lawsuit. Like, this is the same lawsuit? It was from December. Okay, so they're
The
just.
lawsuit where they're like monopolizing, right?
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
the
69 billion. Yeah,
FTC's
so that's
lawsuit.
yeah, that's the same one.
Okay.
The 69. See fake article.
All right, and there's gonna be a lot more that we have to go through, and I'm just realizing what our
Yeah.
time is here.
Yep.
So this will be a multi-part podcast. It looks like. This is just scratching the surface because
Right.
there's a lot more.
Yeah, we
Uh,
still got Biden's in the mix now.
yeah, because, well, I mean, yeah, because he's president. Like, this is all under him, right? So,
That's
like, the FTC is the government. So,
FTC won't let
but
me be.
where we're at kind of right now is that, like, just to give a recap, there's been a lot of back and forth. From
Yep.
last I seen it, and it's not just the US, it's all over the world, Europe, everywhere else, that this was an issue that had to be brought up. it seems like the Xbox acquisition, like the places that it was most being held up,
Hmm.
are going through without issue for Xbox. I mean, without issue, saying like there was complaints, there were lawsuits and everything, there was court cases and stuff like that, but it seems like they're getting what they want. It's going to happen, and Sony's uh, accusations against why this merger is a bad thing are kind of blowing up in their face, and now
Yeah.
Sony's under the spotlight from the government and gamers and everything. So that's where things kind of are right now, and we'll definitely be mentioning that in the next podcast. So definitely tune into that. Which I guess so. We're Do you want to do it tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I could probably do a tomorrow morning stream.
We'll figure out. It might be another like spontaneous. Hey, we're live.
Yeah.
So show up here. And this, I will say, this podcast is one of our shorter ones.
Yeah, because
Surprise.
usually we go about
We
2 hours,
go
right?
here about 2 hours, and I was thinking like this is going to be another 2 hour one because of the amount of content. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll pick this up at another time. And for those on YouTube and Twitch, my setup and everything is kind of broken right now, so you're not going to get the outro music, but it will be available for the audio podcast when that eventually goes up. So I wasn't actually exactly set up for a live stream today,
Yeah.
so
You
we'll
were just
figure
like,
that out.
let's
Yeah,
do
like
it.
yeah, like how I literally I went to court. I was like, how do you think I can pull together setting up everything for a live stream at the last second? She's like, do it. I'm like, all right.
Do
So
it. Right?
so this
And she did that.
is episode 11, part one. Should we
Part one,
call it
yeah.
that, or should we do
Yeah.
11 to 12?
11 to 12. It could be part one because it's
Part one.
technically like we're on the same. Yeah, it'll be part one for
Yeah.
sure.
So this has been the Spawn Shot Podcast, episode 11, part one. We are back. Hopefully, we can do these more often. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we'll wait and see what's happening with Summer Game Fest and all the announcements because
Yeah.
I don't know when things are, so I don't know when to promote things. But we're probably going to be doing reactions to that. So I'll have announcements for things like that. We just did, if in case you missed it, if you've been watching our Marvel podcast, we just did a new one of those that's up on the channel, so you can watch it now. Talk about all the latest news that's been happening before we talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is apparently is out soon in like a couple weeks. I
Oh
haven't watched it
yeah.
yet. Um, and yeah, so go check that out. And are you streaming tonight, Court?
No, I'm having a girls' night tonight. That's why I had to leave because we're
Gotcha.
we're uh, we're marathoning Love Is Blind.
I might stream tonight if I'm done editing. So
Do it.
so
Do it.
maybe we'll
Finish my
check that
video.
out. I will. Yes, I will work on that as well this weekend.
Okay.
Um, but thanks for watching, everyone. Also, one thing I should mention before we leave, we are on other platforms now. Not for the podcast, but social media. So if you want to follow us on Hive, Mastodon, Post, Spoutable, and whatever other weird ones come up, go check out our Linktree link down in the description below. You can follow us on those platforms. We are also on the usual stuff: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that. Those are listed in the same link. Or you can go to thespawntrap.com. That's where you can find all that stuff. And if you want to catch these streams live, go to follow us on Twitch and YouTube. If you prefer audio version, our audio podcast is available pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
Bye, folks.
Goodbye.